But he was also, of course, a very serious man and made a great study of things and all that. And he was also a very, very compassionate man. He was concerned about other people's well-being, and he was a really good man that way. So there was a phone call, a very serious phone call that came in one day. He took the call, and it was my wife, Charlotte, on the telephone. Now, my wife rarely ever called the store, so he knew something was wrong here. So he puts me on the telephone, and she's all frantic on the phone. She said, he's here, he's right outside the door. And Michael all along, he's looking at me from his other phone saying, should I call the police? What's going on? I don't know. He's right there. Is it a robber? Should we call the cops? And Michael, he's so worried. He said, what can I do for her? I don't know. Let me find out what's going on. He's right there. He's outside. He's sitting on the wall. Who's sitting on the wall? It's a mouse. It's a mouse? Outside the door? Yes, he's sitting on the wall and he's staring at me. Well, immediately this serious compassion for Michael, he was on the floor with laughter. The two of us just couldn't stop laughing. He thought this is the funniest thing he'd ever heard. He says, "You scared of a mouse?" So he's on the floor laughing, and he loved a great practical joke, especially at somebody else's expense. But he could take a good joke himself, so he loved a good practical joke. As a matter of fact, he loved Monty Python. It turns out, I found out years later, we both attended the same Monty Python concert at the Hollywood Bowl in 1979. So somehow it was destined that we were to meet again and become business partners. And knowing Michael, it wouldn't be a coincidence. It would be absolutely planned, the universe, that we would come together at this moment and become these great So anyway, he made a great study of things. As we've heard earlier, he learned about all kinds of subjects. And he'd sit down, there were days that we didn't have too much to do. So he'd start talking about quantum physics or the latest technology in electric cars or what's the difference between caffeine levels in coffee and all kinds of subjects. He loved to talk about health food and the effect on the body and all these things. He has so many subjects that he studied. And oftentimes he'd make us study things and then he'd kind of get bored with it and go on to something else. So he's always learning new things. He was a man who's always looking forward to things. And he was a guy who would kind of just he'd just sweep you up with his great enthusiasm, this great good cheer, and it gets you all excited about all kinds of things. Terrific guy. So one thing, he was always trying different kinds of foods. He'd read about something in a magazine article, or he'd find something new in the health food store and say, oh, I gotta try that. So I'm standing in the store one day working with a client, and just out of the corner of my eye, I see Michael walking through the door with a frying pan in his hand. And I was like, well, that was interesting. So I'm talking to my customer out there, and not too much longer goes by, and this really foul smell is coming from the back of the store. Well, pretty soon I wrap things up with my customer. Now, I'm a really good salesman, but I don't think it was my selling technique that made my customer walk out the door, because this was really starting to stink in the store. So the customer leaves. I go into the back. I said, Michael, what the hell is that smell? Oh, he said, oh, this is great stuff. It's called ghee. Ghee? What the hell is ghee? Oh, it's this wonderful butter. So he's crouched down on the floor with his frying pan. I don't know what the hell he was cooking, but he's got this ghee butter melting in his pan, and it was the foulest smelling stuff. He said, "Oh, but it's glorious. Go ahead and taste it." I said, "No, Michael, I think I'll pass on this one." "Oh, no, really, it's great. No, I think this time I'm going to pass, because I tasted a lot of his creations." I said, "But Michael, maybe in the future you should take the frying pan out the back door so we don't scare the customers away." So luckily for all of us, his little kick on ghee didn't last too long. Maybe he cooked it at home, I don't know, but oh, funny stuff. Oh, excuse me, I have to blow my nose. So Michael never stood still. He was always studying new things and always self-analyzing, always wanting to better himself. He always said that he believed if he figured things out now, he wouldn't have to come back and do this all over again. He says it's just much too exhausting. So he was always asking questions of himself and other people around him. And now that he's gone, maybe he's finally gotten to that enlightened place where now he's finally found those answers he's always looking for. Thank you.
We're going to read just a few letters from some people who couldn't be here today or didn't want to stand up in front of people. So go ahead, Adeline.
This first letter is from a friend of Michael's, from the 70s, named by the name of Norman Turgeon. When Michael and I worked together in Springfield, Massachusetts, he decided to go to a spa in Arizona to fast for 6 weeks. At that time, he was only eating fruit and nuts for months. Jane and I were living together at the time, and she and Michael would occasionally binge on a quart of hot fudge. Sounds like Michael, doesn't it? While he was at the spa, we sent him a letter and ground up some Oreos and put them in the letter. When Michael returned, he said he could smell the chocolate, and it drove him crazy, but didn't open the letter until the day of checkout, and when he opened it, he inhaled the crumbs. When we would go to New York on a buying trip, the first stop for Michael was the cosmetic department in Bloomingdale's for a free makeover.
That's all we know. This letter, let's see, I've got one that matches yours, so I'm going to read this one. It works well. Okay, this is from Michael's friend John, who's known him since the 70s when he came to Massachusetts from England. John writes, surprisingly, Michael had an addiction to fudge back then, and we nicknamed him Fudgy. He would eat it till he got sick. Mickey, obsessive as ever. Actually, Phyllis Pohansky, my girlfriend, nicknamed him that. They worked together at Frederick's Jewelers in Bay State West in Springfield, Massachusetts. That's how he started getting into health. When I first saw him, he was the most beautiful man I ever saw. Suit, compliment scarf around his neck, long hair and slim, and his clothes, his Italian suits, and British, immaculate.